I didn't know my son was keeping secrets until he left me a voicemail that left me speechless. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. They say you never truly know anyone, not completely. Not even the people you've raised with your own hands, fed with your own milk, taught to walk and speak and dream. I used to think that was nonsense. I used to believe I knew my son better than I knew myself. I was wrong. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how a single voicemail shattered everything I thought I understood about my life, my family, and the boy I raised to become a man. They say you never truly know anyone, not completely. Not even the people you've raised with your own hands, fed with your own milk, taught to walk and speak and dream. I used to think that was nonsense. I used to believe I knew my son better than I knew myself. I was wrong. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how a single voicemail shattered everything I thought I understood about my life, my family, and the boy I raised to become a man. Daniel was 26 when it all began to unravel. Or maybe it had been unraveling for years, and I was simply too blind to see the threads coming loose. We'd always been close. Unnaturally close, some of my friends would say, though I never saw it that way. After his father died when Daniel was only 8 years old, we became a unit of two. We were all each other had. My parents had passed before Daniel was born, and my late husband's family lived overseas. It was just us against the world. I poured everything into that boy. Every hope, every dream, every ounce of love I had. I went back to school to finish my nursing degree so I could provide for us properly. I worked double shifts at the hospital, came home exhausted, but always made time for dinner together, for homework help, for bedtime stories, even when he got too old for them. Daniel grew into a beautiful young man, tall like his father, with the same dark hair and deep brown eyes. But his smile was all mine, crooked and warm, lighting up his whole face. He was kind, thoughtful, intelligent. He went to college on a partial scholarship, studied computer science, graduated with honors, got a good job at a tech company downtown, started renting his own apartment when he was 24, though he still came over for Sunday dinners every week without fail. That was our tradition, Sunday dinners. No matter what, we'd sit at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd helped him with algebra homework and college applications, and we'd talk about everything: his work, my shifts at the hospital, politics, movies, his dating life, my lack of one. We'd laugh until our sides hurt. We'd argue about silly things. We were best friends. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I can see when things started to change. It was subtle at first. So subtle I convinced myself I was imagining it. It started about 6 months ago. Daniel seemed distracted during our Sunday dinners. He'd check his phone constantly, something he'd never done before. When I asked about it, he'd smile that familiar smile and say it was just work stuff, a big project, nothing to worry about. Then he started missing dinners. First one, which he apologized profusely for. Then another 3 weeks later. Then they became sporadic. Sometimes he'd show up. Sometimes he'd call an hour before and cancel with vague excuses. Work emergency. Friend in crisis. Not feeling well. I told myself it was natural. He was young, building his life, probably seeing someone he didn't want to tell me about yet. I'd raised him to be independent, hadn't I? This was what I wanted, for him to have his own life. But a mother knows. Deep in her bones, she knows when something is wrong with her child. When we did see each other, Daniel seemed different. Tired, yes, but it was more than that. There were dark circles under his eyes that no amount of sleep seemed to cure. He'd lost weight. His hands shook sometimes when he held his coffee cup. He'd jump at sudden sounds. "Are you okay, baby?" I'd ask. I'm fine, Mom. Just stressed with work. Are you eating enough? You look thin. I'm eating, I promise. You'd tell me if something was wrong, wouldn't you? And here, he'd pause. Just a fraction of a second, but I noticed it. A hesitation that felt like a chasm opening between us. Of course, Mom. You know you're the first person I'd come to. But I wasn't. I knew that now, sitting in the wreckage of everything I thought I knew. I wasn't the first person. I might have been the last. The last time I saw Daniel before everything changed was 3 weeks ago. He'd actually shown up for Sunday dinner, which had become so rare I'd made all his favorite foods. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, apple pie for dessert. He barely touched any of it. We sat across from each other at that old table, and I watched him push food around his plate, his mind clearly somewhere else entirely. Daniel, I said finally, talk to me. Please. I know something's wrong. He looked up at me, and for a moment, I saw something in his eyes that frightened me. Fear. Deep, genuine fear. Mom, he started, then stopped. He seemed to be weighing something, considering his words carefully. If I asked you to trust me, no matter what, would you? Of course. Always. Even if things seemed bad? Even if other people said things about me? What are you talking about? Who would say things about you? He shook his head. Never mind. Forget I said anything. I'm just tired, overthinking things. Daniel, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. His palm was cold despite the warm room. Everything's going to be okay. I promise. That was the last time I touched my son. He left early that night, claiming another headache. I stood at my front door and watched him walk to his car. This tall young man I'd raised, and I felt a coldness creep into my chest that had nothing to do with the autumn air. Something was very wrong. I knew it. But I didn't know what to do. He was an adult. I couldn't force him to tell me his problems. I could only wait, hope, pray that when he was ready, he'd come to me. I never imagined what would come instead. It was a Tuesday night, 3 weeks after that last dinner. I was working the night shift at the hospital, my phone tucked in my scrubs pocket as always. It was quiet, one of those rare lulls in the emergency room where we could actually sit down for more than 5 minutes. I was drinking bad coffee in the break room when my phone buzzed. A voicemail notification from Daniel. I frowned. He usually just called or texted. Why would he leave a voicemail at 2:47 in the morning? I stepped into the hallway for privacy and pressed play. What I heard made my blood turn to ice. Mom. His voice was shaking, breathless, like he'd been running. There was wind noise in the background, and what sounded like traffic. If you're getting this, then I couldn't call you directly. I couldn't risk them tracing it while we talked. I need you to listen very carefully. A long pause. I could hear his ragged breathing. If something happens to me in the next few days, if you hear things about me on the news or from the police, don't believe them. Whatever they say I did, whatever evidence they show you, it's not the whole truth. I'm not who they're going to say I am. My hand was shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I never wanted you to be involved in this, Mom. I tried so hard to keep you out of it, to protect you. But if something happens, you need to know the truth. You need to know I did this for the right reasons, even if it doesn't look that way. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice cracked. There's a safe deposit box at First National Bank on Madison Street, box 337. I'm putting the key in your mailbox tonight, in the brick with the loose mortar, second row from the bottom, on the left side of your front steps. You know the one, where I used to hide my secret treasures when I was a kid. A sound in the background, like a car door slamming. Daniel's breathing quickened. In that box, there's everything you need to understand. Documents, recordings, photographs. It's all there. But Mom, you have to be careful who you show it to. There are people, powerful people, who don't want this coming out. That's why I had to. He trailed off. I heard what sounded like footsteps, someone running. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I kept secrets. I'm sorry I lied about where I was going, what I was doing. I thought I could handle this alone. I thought I could fix it without dragging you into the darkness. I was wrong about so many things, but I was never wrong about loving you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You made me believe I could be good, that I could matter, that I could make a difference. His voice broke completely. If this goes badly, if I don't make it out, promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll think about whether it's worth it to pursue this. Your safety matters more than the truth. Do you understand? Your safety matters more. Mom, The voicemail cut off abruptly. I stood in that hospital hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs, and hit the callback button with trembling fingers. It rang, and rang, and rang. Voicemail. Daniel, baby, it's Mom. Call me back right now. Right now. I don't care what time it is. I don't care about anything except hearing your voice. Please, call me back. I hung up and immediately called again. And again. And again. Nothing. I texted him. Daniel, I got your message. I'm scared. Please tell me you're okay. Where are you? What's happening? The message delivered, but there were no read receipts, no 3 dots indicating he was typing. Nothing. I tried calling 6 more times over the next 10 minutes, each call going straight to voicemail now. His phone was off. I grabbed my supervisor and told her I had a family emergency. I didn't wait for approval. I just left, running to my car in the parking garage, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. The drive to my house took 15 minutes. It felt like hours. I pulled into my driveway with a screech of tires and ran to my front steps. The brick, 2nd row from the bottom on the left side. I crouched down, feeling along the mortar until I found the loose one. I'd forgotten about this, forgotten how Daniel used to hide little treasures here when he was young. Rocks he thought were special. Notes to imaginary friends. Once a dead butterfly he wanted to preserve. I pulled the brick out with shaking hands. Behind it, wrapped in plastic, was a small silver key with a number stamped on it. 337. I sat down hard on my front steps, key clutched in my fist, and tried to breathe. What had my son gotten himself into? I went inside and tried calling him 17 more times. I called his workplace, getting an answering service. I called his 2 closest friends, waking them both up. Neither had heard from him in weeks. I called the hospitals, asking if anyone matching his description had been admitted. Nothing. At 5 a.m., as dawn was beginning to break, I called the police. I'd like to report my son missing. The officer who took my statement was polite but unhelpful. An adult missing for less than 12 hours wasn't really missing, ma'am. He's probably just out with friends. Phone died. You know how young people are. Give it 24 hours. But he left me a message, I said, hearing the desperation in my own voice. He said something might happen to him. He said not to believe what people say about him. Please, you have to help me find him. What exactly did he say might happen? I don't know. He didn't specify. But he was scared. I could hear it in his voice. Has your son been under any stress lately? Any mental health concerns? And there it was. The implication that Daniel was unstable, that this was all in his head, in my head. My son is perfectly sane, I said coldly, and he's in danger. We'll make a note of your concern, ma'am. If he doesn't turn up in 24 hours, call us back, and we'll file a formal missing person report. I hung up feeling helpless and furious. At 9 a.m., as soon as the bank opened, I was there. I walked up to the safe deposit box section with Daniel's key clutched so tightly in my hand, it left an imprint on my palm. The bank employee verified my identification and led me to a private room. She brought out box 337 and left me alone with it. My hands were shaking as I lifted the lid. Inside was a thick manila envelope, a USB drive, and a smaller sealed envelope with my name written on it in Daniel's handwriting. I opened the letter first. Mom, if you're reading this, then something has gone wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of it. I need you to understand that everything I'm about to tell you is true, even though it will sound impossible. I have proof. It's all here, documented, recorded, verified. I spent 6 months gathering this evidence, 6 months living a double life, 6 months lying to the person I love most in the world. I'm not a hero, Mom. I want you to know that first. I didn't do this for glory or recognition. I did it because I stumbled onto something I couldn't ignore, and once I knew, I couldn't unknow it. Do you remember 18 months ago when I told you I was taking that business trip to Seattle? I lied. I went to Pennsylvania instead, to the town where Dad grew up. I don't know why. Maybe I was feeling lost, wanting to connect with him somehow, even though he's been gone for so long. I met some of his old friends, visited the house where he lived, walked the streets he walked. It was healing in a way I didn't expect. And then I met someone who changed everything. Her name was Margaret Chen. She was Dad's high school girlfriend before he met you. She's a lawyer now, living in Philadelphia. She reached out to me after seeing my post in a local Facebook group asking about Dad. We met for coffee. She told me stories about Dad as a teenager, showed me old photographs. It was wonderful, Mom, like finding a missing piece of him. And then, casually, she mentioned something that made my blood run cold. She said, "Your father was such a good man. What happened to him was a tragedy. I'm glad you turned out okay, despite everything." I asked her what she meant by, "What happened to him?" She looked at me strangely and said, "The accident, the brake failure. Surely you know the police investigated it?" I didn't know. You always told me it was just an accident, a terrible random accident. A truck whose brakes failed, running a red light, hitting Dad's car. You said the driver was elderly, that he died too in the crash. But Margaret told me that wasn't the whole story. She told me that in the weeks before Dad died, he'd been acting strange. Paranoid. He'd told her he'd discovered something at work, something illegal, and he didn't know what to do about it. She said the police looked into whether the brake failure was really an accident, but the investigation was closed quickly, ruled as mechanical failure, case closed. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think that Dad's death was anything but random tragedy, but I couldn't let it go. I started digging, Mom. Into Dad's past, into the company he worked for, into what happened 18 years ago. What I found was worse than I ever imagined. Dad worked for Henderson Financial Group. You remember? He was an accountant there, had been for 10 years. It was a good job, stable, respectable. But Henderson Financial Group wasn't what it appeared to be. In the early 2000s, they were running a massive fraud scheme. They were laundering money for criminal organizations, cooking books for corrupt politicians, facilitating tax evasion for the wealthy elite. Millions of dollars moving through fake accounts, shell companies, fraudulent investments. And Dad found out about it. I found emails, Mom, hidden in archived servers that took me months to access. Emails between Dad and his supervisor, where Dad asked questions about discrepancies in the accounts. Emails where Dad expressed concerns about certain transactions. Emails where Dad was told, in increasingly threatening terms, to mind his own business. The last email Dad sent was 2 weeks before he died. He'd copied files, was planning to go to the authorities, was meeting with a federal investigator. He never made it to that meeting. His brakes didn't just fail, Mom. They were tampered with. I have proof. I found the original police report, the one that was buried, the one that showed evidence of deliberate mechanical sabotage. I found the investigator who was pressured to close the case. He's retired now, and he was willing to talk once I promised him anonymity. Dad was murdered. Murdered by people at Henderson Financial Group to keep him quiet. And here's the part that makes me sick, Mom. Henderson Financial Group is still operating, still doing business, still committing fraud, still ruining lives, still lining the pockets of criminals and corrupt politicians. The people who killed Dad are still out there. Some retired, some promoted, some moved on to other companies. But they're all still living their lives while Dad is in the ground. I couldn't let it stand. Once I knew, I couldn't unknow it. I couldn't let Dad's death be meaningless. So I went undercover. I got a job at a company connected to Henderson through one of their subsidiary partnerships. I gained access to their systems. I spent 6 months collecting evidence, documenting everything, building an airtight case. I have everything, Mom. Everything needed to bring them down. To expose the corruption, to get justice for Dad, to make sure they can't hurt anyone else. But they found out. I don't know how. But they know I've been digging. They know I have the evidence. And they're coming for me. That's why I left you this message. That's why I had to keep you in the dark. I didn't want you anywhere near this. I didn't want them to use you to get to me. But if something happens, if I don't survive this, I need you to know the truth. You deserve to know who Dad really was. A hero who tried to do the right thing and paid for it with his life. And you need to decide what to do with this information. The USB drive contains copies of everything. Every email, every document, every recording. Take it to the FBI, to journalists, to anyone who will listen, or don't. Destroy it all and live in peace. Because pursuing this will put you in danger too, and I would never forgive myself if anything happened to you because of me. I love you, Mom, more than anything in this world. You gave me everything, taught me everything, made me who I am. If I did any good in this world, it's because you showed me how. I'm sorry for the secrets. I'm sorry for the lies. I'm sorry for all of it. Whatever you decide, know that I'm proud to be your son. Always, Daniel. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face, my hands shaking so badly the paper rattled. My husband hadn't died in a random accident. He'd been murdered. And my son had been investigating his murder for 6 months, putting himself in terrible danger, and I'd had no idea. I opened the manila envelope with trembling fingers. Inside were hundreds of pages of documents, financial records, emails, police reports, photographs, a complete picture of corruption spanning nearly 2 decades. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop and found folders upon folders of files, audio recordings of meetings, video footage of conversations. Daniel had been thorough, meticulous, building an ironclad case. And now he was missing, possibly dead, because he'd tried to get justice for his father. I sat in that bank room for hours, reading through everything, my horror growing with each page. This went so deep. City officials, federal agents, judges, businessmen, all connected, all complicit, all corrupt. And Henderson Financial Group at the center of it all, a machine that destroyed anyone who threatened to expose it. Like my husband, like my son. I thought about what Daniel had said in his letter. I could take this evidence to the authorities and pursue justice, or I could destroy it all and stay safe. What would a mother do? What should I do? As I sat there, drowning in documents and despair, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered with shaking hands. Mrs. Mitchell? A man's voice, professional, cold. Yes? This is Agent Robert Morrison with the FBI. I need to speak with you about your son, Daniel Mitchell. My heart stopped. Do you know where he is? Is he okay? We need you to come to our field office immediately. There are some questions we need to ask you regarding your son's recent activities. What activities? What are you talking about? A pause. Mrs. Mitchell, are you aware that your son has been conducting unauthorized surveillance and hacking into private corporate servers? I felt the world tilt beneath me. That's not, he was investigating. He's wanted for multiple federal crimes, Mrs. Mitchell. Computer fraud, wire fraud, corporate espionage, theft of proprietary information. If you know his whereabouts, you're legally obligated to inform us. This was wrong. All wrong. Daniel had said if something happened, don't believe them. Don't trust them. I need to see proof of who you are, I said carefully. How do I know you're really FBI? We can discuss that when you come in. Can you be here within the hour? I'll call you back, I said, and hung up. My mind was racing. Was that really an FBI agent? Or was it someone from Henderson pretending to be FBI? How high did this corruption go? I needed help. I needed someone I could trust. I thought of Daniel's message. He'd said there were powerful people who didn't want this coming out. He'd said to be careful who I showed the evidence to. I gathered all the documents, put them back in the envelope, grabbed the USB drive and Daniel's letter. I left the bank and drove aimlessly for an hour, checking my mirrors constantly to see if anyone was following me. I needed to think. I needed to figure out my next move. But first, I needed to find my son. I went to Daniel's apartment. I had a spare key that he'd given me years ago. The apartment was neat, organized, exactly as Daniel always kept it. But there were signs of hurried departure. His laptop was gone, some clothes missing from the closet, his passport absent from the drawer where he usually kept it. I searched his apartment methodically, looking for any clue about where he might have gone. In his bedroom closet, behind a stack of old textbooks, I found a burner phone taped to the wall. I pulled it out and powered it on. There was one contact saved. MC. Margaret Chen, the woman who'd started all of this. I called the number. It rang 4 times before a woman answered. Hello? Is this Margaret Chen? A long pause. Who is this? My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm Daniel Mitchell's mother. He's missing, and I think he might be in danger. Another pause, longer this time. Oh, God. I was afraid this would happen. Do you know where he is? Not exactly. But I know he was planning something. He called me 3 days ago, said he was going to meet with someone who could help him get the evidence to the right people. Someone who couldn't be bought or intimidated. Who? Her name is Jessica Reeves. She's an investigative journalist with the Washington Post. Daniel was planning to give her everything, let her publish it all. Protection through publicity. Do you have her contact information? Margaret gave me a phone number and an address. Before I hung up, I had to ask. Did you know? Did you know what you were starting when you told Daniel about my husband? I knew something was wrong with Tom's death. I could never prove it, but I knew. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I thought Daniel deserved to know the truth about his father. I never imagined he'd dive this deep, risk this much. He's his father's son, I said quietly. He couldn't let injustice stand. I hung up and immediately called the number for Jessica Reeves. A voicemail. Of course. Ms. Reeves, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I believe my son, Daniel Mitchell, was in contact with you about a story. He's missing now, and I have the evidence he was planning to give you. I need your help. Please call me back. I left my number and hung up, feeling helpless again. Where was my son? Was he alive? Was he hurt, hiding, captured? My phone rang. Another unknown number, I answered. Mrs. Mitchell? Yes. It's Daniel. I nearly collapsed with relief. Daniel! Oh God, baby, where are you? Are you safe? Mom, listen carefully. I don't have much time. They're tracking this call. I need you to do exactly what I say. I'm listening. Did you get the key? Did you go to the bank? Yes. I have everything. Good. Good. Mom, I need you to take all of it to Jessica Reeves at the Washington Post. She's expecting it. She's the only one I trust to publish this without getting killed for it. Daniel, the FBI called me. They said you're wanted for federal crimes. He laughed bitterly. I'm sure they did. Mom, half the people at the FBI are on Henderson's payroll. They're not going to help us. They're going to bury this just like they buried the investigation into Dad's death. So what do? You get the evidence to Jessica, you let her publish it, and then you disappear for a while. Go stay with Aunt Linda in Oregon, change your phone number, stay offline. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. What about you? Where are you? A long pause. I'm okay, Mom. I'm safe for now. But I can't tell you where. The less you know, the safer you are. Daniel. Mom, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll do this. Promise me Dad's death won't be for nothing. I promise. I'll take it to Jessica. I'll make sure the truth comes out. I heard noise in the background, voices, someone calling out. I have to go, Daniel said urgently. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. No, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. You didn't drag me into anything. Your father and I, we taught you to stand up for what's right, to fight for justice, to be brave. You're doing exactly what we raised you to do. I'm proud of you. Do you hear me? I'm so proud of you. His voice broke. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. Be safe. The line went dead. I sat in my son's empty apartment, clutching a phone that suddenly felt like a lifeline, and I made my decision. I was going to finish what my son and my husband had started. I was going to expose Henderson Financial Group. I was going to bring down everyone involved in the corruption that had killed my husband and was now trying to kill my son. Not because I was brave, not because I was heroic, but because I was a mother and no one threatens my child and gets away with it. I called Jessica Reeves again. This time, she answered. Mrs. Mitchell, I got your message. I've been trying to reach Daniel for 2 days. Is he all right? He's alive, for now. I have everything he wanted to give you. All the evidence, all the documentation. Can you meet me? Yes. But Mrs. Mitchell, you need to understand that if you give me this information, there's no going back. Once I publish this story, you and Daniel will be targets. Henderson will come after you with everything they have. Legal teams, private investigators, possibly worse. I understand. But this ends now. No more running. No more hiding. No more letting these people get away with murder. We arranged to meet in 2 hours at a coffee shop downtown. A public place. Lots of witnesses. I spent those 2 hours making copies of everything. I scanned documents, duplicated the USB drive, sent encrypted files to secure email accounts. If something happened to me, if Henderson managed to suppress the story, there would be backups. When I met Jessica Reeves, she was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and a careful demeanor. We sat in a corner booth, and I slid the envelope across the table to her. This is everything? She asked. Everything Daniel collected. Financial records, emails, recordings, witness statements. Proof that Henderson Financial Group has been running a fraud and money laundering operation for 20 years. Proof that they murdered my husband when he tried to expose them. And proof of everyone involved in the cover-up. Jessica opened the envelope and began reviewing the documents. Her eyes widened with each page. Mrs. Mitchell, this is explosive. If even half of this is verified, this will bring down dozens of people. Politicians, law enforcement, judges, corporate executives. Good. They deserve it. She looked at me carefully. You understand they'll come after you? They'll try to discredit you, intimidate you, possibly harm you? Let them try. I've already lost my husband to these people. I'm not losing my son, too. Jessica nodded slowly. All right. I'll need a few days to verify everything, to contact sources, to build the story. Once I publish, you and Daniel need to be somewhere safe. Daniel said to go to my sister's in Oregon. Change my phone, stay offline. That's smart. Do it tomorrow. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Don't use credit cards, withdraw cash. Leave your car here and rent one under a different name. You've done this before. Unfortunately, yes. Protecting whistleblowers is part of the job. Over the next 3 days, I did exactly as instructed. I withdrew cash from my bank account, rented a car under my maiden name, drove to Oregon to stay with my sister Linda, who I swore to secrecy. I got a burner phone and destroyed my old one. And I waited. Jessica called me on day 4. The story publishes tomorrow morning. Are you somewhere safe? Yes. Good. Because all hell is about to break loose. The story hit the Washington Post website at 6 a.m. on a Friday morning. The headline read, Decades of Corruption, How Henderson Financial Group Operated a Criminal Enterprise Under Federal Protection. Jessica had done her job brilliantly. Every claim was verified, every source documented, every piece of evidence presented clearly and irrefutably. She'd even found additional witnesses, other former employees who'd been too scared to come forward before, but were now willing to talk. By noon, it was the top story on every major news network. By evening, federal agents were making arrests. By the next morning, the CEO of Henderson Financial Group had resigned, and 3 members of Congress were under investigation. The story exploded across the country, dominating news cycles for weeks. Daniel's name was mentioned as the primary source of the evidence, praised as a whistleblower, a hero who risked everything to expose corruption. But Daniel himself remained missing. I received one more message from him, 2 weeks after the story published. A text from an unknown number. "Mom, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm sorry I can't come home yet, but it's not safe. Once things calm down, once the trials are over, I'll come back. I promise. I love you." That was 6 months ago. The trials are ongoing. 17 people have been arrested so far, including the former CEO of Henderson Financial Group, 2 FBI agents, a district attorney, and multiple corporate executives. The evidence Daniel collected has been instrumental in building the cases against them. My husband's death has been officially reopened as a homicide investigation. The man responsible for tampering with his brakes, a former mechanic who was paid by Henderson to kill him, has been arrested and is cooperating with authorities. And I wait. I wait in Oregon, in my sister's guest room, living a quiet life under a different name. The FBI has offered me witness protection, but I've declined. I want to be reachable when Daniel is ready to come home. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I did the right thing. If the justice we're getting is worth the price we've paid. My husband dead, my son in hiding, our lives destroyed by the pursuit of truth. But then I think about what Daniel wrote in his letter. "If I did any good in this world, it's because you showed me how. We raised him to be good, to stand up for what's right, to fight for justice even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when it costs everything. And he did. My beautiful, brave, foolish son did exactly that. So I wait. I wait for the day when Daniel can come home, when we can sit at that old kitchen table again and have Sunday dinner, when I can hold my son and tell him how proud I am, how much I love him, how sorry I am that he had to carry this burden alone for so long. I wait for the day when the secrets are finally over, when the truth has been told, when justice has been served. I wait for my son to come home. But until then, I hold on to the last thing he said to me on that phone call 6 months ago. 4 words that keep me going through the darkest nights. "I love you, Mom." And I whisper back into the empty room, to the son who can't hear me, but who I hope somehow knows. "I love you too, baby. Come home soon." The voicemail that left me speechless also gave me something I didn't expect. Not just the truth about my husband's death, not just the exposure of corruption, but a reminder of who my son really is. Not a keeper of secrets, but a fighter for truth, a seeker of justice, a man willing to sacrifice everything for what's right. He's his father's son, and he's mine too. And that's something worth waiting for.